let's go to Jovan Buha, a great NBA reporter, covers the Lakers extensively, the Buha's Block podcast. I know you're a big soccer guy. I follow you on IG, with the European background. Who you got in the World Cup here?
To be honest, I've been so locked in on NBA free agency that I've been passively watching. My wife is from Germany, so I was rooting for Germany, and obviously that had a disappointing finish.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to NBA free agency. Let's start with the big rumor. This Jonathan Kuminga and the Lakers. Apparently, JJ Redick had a call with him, and they're trying to woo him. What's mysterious is how can they afford him? What would they give up? What are you hearing on Kuminga and the Lakers?
Yeah, so there is mutual interest here from the two parties. They have had conversations throughout free agency up to this point. The Lakers can acquire him a couple of ways. The most straightforward way would probably be a sign-in trade with Atlanta, where the Lakers could either just take him back if they execute their moves, go above the cap. There are some trade rules that, depending on the outgoing salary, that would impact how much they could take back, in the form of Kuminga in a deal. But they could just do a sign-in trade and add him to their roster. They could also do a salary dump and trade some of their players, Jared Vanderbilt, Dalton Connect, guys like that, to get off some money and then just sign him in free agency, create some more cap space. So those are like the two most straightforward ways. Technically, they could extend the Walker Kessler trade that has not been made official yet. They could loop in Atlanta and do it that way. So there are several ways that they can pursue and execute a Jonathan Kuminga addition. It's just going to be how much is Atlanta willing to play ball? What's the cost of that? And then if, for example, you're dumping some guys you could also do a sign and trade after dumping some guys. Do you still have enough assets to send Atlanta in a potential sign and trade? So there are multiple pathways here, but the Lakers are pursuing Jonathan Kuminga. They're trying to get that starting forward that they feel like will be the missing piece to that starting group. So right now, Kuminga's at the top of their board.
So here's what I don't get. The Warriors could not figure out how to use Kuminga. Didn't fit in their system. They ship him to Atlanta. He flashed. You could see that highlight reel. Got a little windy in Atlanta when Kuminga was on the fast break. Goodness, he's athletic. Why would the Hawks just want to move off him? I asked somebody and they were like, I think they're trying to clean up their books to make a run at Anthony Edwards when he, maybe next summer, if he hates playing with LaMelo, he comes home to Atlanta via big trade. I don't know. Why would Atlanta move on from Kuminga?
I think the big thing was the team option, where his team option was around, I think it was just under $24 million. That's a lot of money for him. And clearly that money is not out there for him on the market right now. So I think for them, it was a no-brainer to reject that team option. I mean, I've heard they're still interested in potentially retaining him, depending on the number, depending on the contract. So that's a possibility where this could all be a smokescreen or some leverage, and then he ends up just staying in Atlanta. But I think there's also the opportunity where in Atlanta, they have Jalen Johnson, and I think that will most likely relegate Jonathan Kuminga to a bench role longer term. Whereas with the Lakers, he could be the starting four and have that starting group: Walker Kessler, Jonathan Kuminga, Quentin Grimes, Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and he could be on the biggest stage in basketball, right? Yeah. We've seen the guys go to LA on cheap deals and rehab their value. And I think that would be a big selling point for Kuminga, would be come to LA, play off of Luka and Austin. Imagine the shots that you're going to be getting, the shot quality, and catch and shoot threes, getting out in transition. You could be a lob threat with Luka or Austin in the pick and roll. Ooh. And we will set you up for either staying here and signing something longer term, as long as you can prove that you can play more consistently, or it'll set you up for another contract with another team.
Could he be the PJ Washington from Dallas that the Lakers need, a corner three guy who defends the hell out of the wing?
That's the vision that they are trying to sell him on, and that they are hopeful that it'll play out that way. Now, I would note he has been a below average 3-point shooter in 4 of his 5 seasons.
Not great.
And he's really regressed. If you look at his catch and shoot numbers, that they were at the highest his first couple of years, then they have declined to below average over the last 3. So not like the perfect fit, but I think that's like the vision is, can you be the PJ Washington? Can you be the Aaron Gordon, the Andrew Wiggins, who comes in? I think those two are good parallels, because it's like they come in, they're lottery picks. There's certain expectations of, are those guys going to be all-stars, go-to scorers? But they quickly realize with their physical gifts and their overall athleticism that they can impact the game in different ways. So you look at Gordon was the number 3 guy on that Denver team in 2023. Wiggins was the number 3 guy, and even the number 2 guy at times with that Warriors team in 2022. Could Kuminga have a career arc like that? I think so. He just has to buy into doing the little things and being more of a supercharged role player rather than a star in the making. And if he shifts his mentality, which is a big if, I'm not like, I think it's far from a certainty. I'm just laying out the case here for him. If he can do that, and it might just take another stop or whatever for him to get to that point, I think he could have that type of impact.
For sure. All right, let's quickly go to the Walker Kessler deal. So it was clearly an overpay. Everybody understands that. And we got the snow time Lakers jokes out of the way. Ha, ha, ha. But if we're being real, I mean, Jovan, like, Walker Kessler is a baller when he's healthy. Obviously, last season, scratch that. But you looked at 2 years ago, when you're talking about offensive rebound percentage, the other one I'm spacing on. Oh, shot blocks defensively. Walker Kessler's is exactly what you want. He's a hybrid. He's not as athletic as Derek Lively was in Dallas, but he's probably more athletic and a little better than Daniel Gafford was. I don't see why this move is being panned so much.
I think people just don't watch a lot of Utah Jazz basketball. But I would say on the injury front, I think his injuries have been overblown. So the shoulder injury last year was an issue he had been dealing with since college and had been putting off in terms of having the surgery because it was going to be such a long recovery process. And with the Jazz still tanking, him in a contract year and him aggravating it, they decided that, okay, it's finally time to do it. Let's clean this up. And then moving forward, you'll be fine. So I think last year you put in its own box to the side. The first 3 years, if you actually look through his game logs, at the end of each of his first 3 seasons, he mysteriously stopped playing at the end of the season over the final 2 or 3 weeks because the Jazz held him out of games. So if you look at like on the surface, I think it's like 60 or 74, 60 something and 58 games. When you actually add in the games that he missed mysteriously at the end of the season, I think it's closer to 78, 70, and 65. And if you say a guy's played 65 plus games in his first 3 years, like that's pretty good health for the modern NBA. Guys are struggling to get to 70 games. So I think the health stuff is overblown with him and has partly been because Utah was tanking. But to your point, last time he played in a full season, he led the NBA in offensive rebounding. He was second in blocks. He was among the league leaders in just rebounds overall. And he's an elite finisher in the pick and roll and around the rim. So I know he's not maybe as flashy of a name as a guy like Jalen Duren, who's coming off an all-star, all-NBA season. But to me, especially factoring in the cost in terms of the actual contract, he was a no-brainer addition over a guy like Jalen Duren because he's a much better defender. So this is a guy I think at his peak could be top 5 in the league in field goal percentage, rebounds, and blocks. Since entering the NBA, he's allowed the second lowest field goal percentage at the rim behind only Chet Holmgren. So this is an elite defensive anchor, rim protector who's sort of just been, in Utah, kind of tucked away. No one's really paying attention, but like he's very similar to Rudy Gobert. He doesn't have the same all-world, all-time upside. Like I think he could be 85 to 90% of Gobert defensively, but I think he's better offensively. He's got better hands, better touch around the rim. So this is a guy I think could average easily 16 points, 12 and a half rebounds, 2.5 blocks, and be in that like mid 60s field goal percentage. So I think he's a stud. And I understand that the trade price was high, although that's part of doing business in restricted free agency. But the actual value, he's the 10th highest paid center, going to be the 11th likely after Duren. And then Wemby's going to get his extension. So like we could be looking at this like a year or two from now. He's like the 15th highest paid center and he's giving you top 10 center value. And like, that's a great deal.
It's not bad. I joked to the staff this morning. So if Anthony Davis was Nordstrom, right, is Walker Kessler an Old Navy? And they were like, no, he's better than Old Navy. He's like a Banana Republic. Better. So you get like 80, 90% of Anthony Davis. I'll take that in a heartbeat. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Defensively, let me be clear. Not offensively.
Not offensively, yes, obviously. The Spurs are better than the Lakers, undeniably. The Thunder are better than the Lakers, undeniably. What other teams in the West right now are definitely better than the Lakers? Definitely. And if you say LaMelo Ball, this might be your last appearance on the show. Like, come on, bro. There's no way that team is better.
I mean, I think that's the end of the list in terms of definitely. Now, I think people are overlooking Denver a bit in terms of
done anything.
We'll see. So we'll see what happens with what Cam Johnson, Christian Brown. Do they get off of one of those salaries to fit in Peyton Watson? I will note that last year with Jokic, Murray, and Aaron Gordon in the lineup, they went 20-6 and had a plus 19 net rating with those three on the floor. The big caveat here is that Aaron Gordon can't stay healthy anymore with several lower extremity injuries. So that's a wild card. But when they were healthy and we saw some flash, remember they ended the season on a big win streak. They had that statement win over the Spurs. Jokic was having his way with Wemby. It was like they entered the playoffs with all this momentum, and it looked like they might be on a crash collision course with the Thunder in the conference finals, right? And maybe getting past the Spurs. They obviously had the really disappointing outcome in the first round, but no Peyton Watson, no Aaron Gordon missed most of that series. So I think if they retain Peyton Watson, trade one of Johnson or Brown and fill out the bench, I think you could make a strong case they're still the third best team in the West, but you can't say it definitively. Right. So to your point, it's only the Thunder and Spurs. Everyone else, TBD.
They have no bench. Yeah.
The Timberwolves still need a starting four, and they need more of a bench. The Rockets are interesting, but I think
Rockets
more so
are the one
regular season context. Like I don't trust them in the playoffs after seeing how they've fared against the shorthanded Lakers. I think right now you can make a case for the Lakers as high as 3, and I don't think that's crazy.
All right, thanks. So we've done 10 minutes on the Lakers, and we haven't mentioned LeBron James. That's got to be a first in every interview you've ever done. If you had to pick a word to characterize his ending, where allegedly the Lakers did not offer him a contract, is ugly too harsh? Is it amicable? How would you characterize the end of his tenure?
I mean, but between those two, I might lean like sad or maybe disappointing of just because of like the history of, I think undeniably this was a successful tenure, especially by modern NBA standards, where we've now had 8 straight years of different champions. And like this notion that you're starting to see, if you just look at NBA history, it's becoming progressively more difficult to win multiple championships during your career. And you go through like back to Russell, and then you get to Magic and Bird and Jordan, and then now you're getting into guys like winning 2 or 3 rings. Like that is a testament to their greatness, just based on how much parity there is across the NBA right now, and how difficult it is to sustain winning. Like we looked at the Thunder flash back 10 months ago, 9 months ago. We're looking at, can the Thunder win 74 games and win a second title?
Not me.
Well, you weren't. I'll give you credit.
I'm a hater.
That we see, like, how the rest of the season goes. So I think it's like the Lakers winning a title with LeBron just 2 years into his tenure there, after being the worst team in the league record-wise over that 5-year span, missing the playoffs 5 straight years, like that, I think means something. So to me, just the way that it ended, it was a little disappointing. It felt like it would have been nice to have him go out as a Laker, in my opinion, right? And just like it felt like he had become a Laker over that time, and that they had the 8 years together. But look, like the relationship had run its course. I've been saying, I felt like it was a marriage of convenience the last 2-3 years. I think things were never the same after the Westbrook trade. Yeah. And like, that was just the line of delineation in terms of the pre-Westbrook trade and post-Westbrook trade in terms of their relationship. The dynamic there was never the same after that. So I'm not surprised by it. I think the writing was on the wall last summer when they didn't even discuss any form of an extension or a new contract. But it was a little sad for it to go out that way, in my opinion.
I had a hot take that it doesn't really matter where LeBron goes. I don't think he's putting any of these teams over the top. Would you agree with that? Like, if he goes to Golden State, I don't know what it does. I think the Cavs probably could use him the most. The Philly thing doesn't make any sense at all. Where are you on the best landing spot for him? And does he actually help? And I know that sounds bad. I think LeBron is the GOAT, but at this age and just jumping into a team that's just not in his DNA.
I think he will help. Especially when we look at the contract of, regardless of, like, I don't think LeBron was a $50 million player anymore, the way that he was being paid as a Laker this past season. But if LeBron's signing a minimum contract or a taxpayer MLE at $6 million, or the non-taxpayer MLE at $15 million, like, he's far better than that.
Wait, hold on. Do you think he's signing for $3 million, Jovan?
No,
Okay.
but I mean, some of the options he's looking at as of right now, they only have a vet minimum contract to sign him. I think it's a little bit higher. I think it's closer to 4 technically, but still, like,
hold on. We can make a wager. There's no way he's playing for $4 million. When Max Strus is making 15 mil?
Well, but if that's all they have to offer him, like that's it, right? And one thing that is of note that's important is the Lakers have officially rescinded the rights to LeBron James. So there'd been some speculation from people of, are they going to sign and trade him and potentially recoup some assets, but then they could also sign him to whatever salary they wanted and just trade him to Team X and maybe even put Bronny in that trade and then get back like some second round picks or something just to get something back and to help facilitate him to his next team at a higher salary. Well, that's out the window now. They had to rescind his rights. They already started making some moves. So that's not happening. So if LeBron, wherever he ends up, it's going to be him signing as a free agent, not via sign and trade. But I think especially looking at, like, I know,
wait, hold on,
Jovan,
but hold on. Before we go to other teams, rescinding his rights. Why would they do that? Isn't that kind of a jerk move by them? Like, hey man, we could pay you and trade you, but we ain't doing that. Am I reading that wrong?
They had to. They had to do that to execute their moves that they've already started to execute. So they did the DeAndre Ayton trade last night. They officially signed Mamu and Quentin Grimes. So to do those moves, they needed cap space. And with LeBron on their cap sheet with a nearly $60 million cap hold, they were not able to do those moves. So like the Lakers, they're kind of in this whole holding pattern right now where they're trying to pull off the Kuminga thing. They're trying to see if they could trade for someone else if they can't get Kuminga. But at some point they have to start actually like signing these deals and executing these moves because they're holding up other teams. Like right now, Utah is being held up with the Kessler deal. The Hawks are held up to some degree with this Kuminga situation. So, and then LeBron's holding everybody up with his free agency. So it's like, there's a lot of moving parts right now and certain situations are being held up by a delay in terms of decision-making. So the Lakers had to do something. And part of that was rescinding LeBron's rights. So I would not classify it as that though. I would classify it as just, this is business and they needed to start making some of these moves with their roster.
Okay, sorry. So let's go now real quick. We can wrap up with your guesses on how he would fit with the Sixers, Warriors, and Cavs, and what your best prediction is.
So right now, I would say that the buzz is leaning Cleveland. I've been more on like Golden State the last 2-3 weeks because that's where I think if Golden State can pull off an AD trade and they do Jimmy Butler plus a couple picks or whatever it costs to get Anthony Davis, that to me would be the precursor move that's indicating LeBron is coming. If they don't do something like that, if they don't land a big piece in just this roster, I would be surprised if he goes there. So I would be just cognizant of what does Golden State do. If Golden State makes a big move, I think that could signal that LeBron is going there. But putting them to the side, it seems like Cleveland right now is the leader in the clubhouse. That's the one that behind the scenes, most NBA people are saying they're expecting him to go there, that there's some buzz with that. But certainly, I mean, I think if you look at Philly and Minnesota, those to me are the two best fits. And I understand the skepticism with Philly just because of you have really four high usage guys. Embiid, I think you could load manage with LeBron there and he plays 45, 50 games. You can limit his minutes. Okay. LeBron could even load manage with them having those three guys on the perimeter who are all Iron Men going to play 70 plus games with high minutes. So I think Philly clearly needs a power forward and just needs a little bit more talent. LeBron could be a great fit there. Minnesota is the one where I look at it, I'm like, they need a 4. LeBron is a 4 now at this stage of his career. And they have the defense to protect him and sort of let him take possessions off or be in like a lower usage helper role where you got Gobert, you got McDaniels, you got Ant, and you got some other guys off the bench. So it's like that to me, I think it'd be a great fit. Now, is LeBron going to go to Minnesota? Is LeBron going to go to Denver? I have a hard time seeing that. So I do think it's probably Cleveland, Golden State, Miami, Philly. Those would be, I think right now, the 4 teams I'd be looking at as possibilities. And I would say, to me, Cleveland right now is the most likely. Just
to back up to that Wizards AD, didn't the Wizards say they're not doing an Anthony Davis trade?
Well, yes, but I think that could be public posturing. Like if you get 2 or 3 first-round picks offered to you from Golden State just to take on an expiring Jimmy Butler contract, I think because the other thing with AD is he wants an extension. So if you're keeping AD, you now have to figure out, are you going to extend him? What's that number? And if you're not interested in that, then trading him and getting back some first round draft capital obviously makes sense. So right now it's smokescreen season. Everyone's putting different things out there. Teams are posturing, but I think if they come to you with, here's Jimmy Butler's expiring contract plus 2 or 3 firsts, you have to strongly consider that.
Okay, but
especially
wait,
because that's more than they gave up for AD.
Can't Washington just say, dude, you barely played basketball in the last 2 seasons. We're not extending you. You've got a contract for this season, play it out? Can't they do that? Or would the AD just be like, I'm not playing?
They can. They can. It's obviously, then you just see how the season goes and you see if AD wants to stay there or not. But I think the risk would obviously just be him being offended or slighted by that, having a good season where he bounces back health-wise, and then him just departing for nothing. So I think if Golden State puts the picks on the table, I think Washington would have to strongly consider that.
That would change things. AD, LeBron, Draymond. I don't know if that's enough shooting on that team. Curry.
The shooting is. It's also like I look at Miami and Golden State as trying to fit the front courts with like LeBron, Draymond, AD, LeBron, Giannis, Bam. Love the defense with those front courts and LeBron playing next to 2 really good, great defenders in both cases. But the shooting there with Bam and Giannis or Draymond and AD, it's pretty cramped. So at least in Golden State, you have Steph, the greatest shooter of all time, to help offset some of the spacing concerns. But from a front court perspective, offensively, it would be pretty cramped spacing.
All right, Jovan Buha, NBA reporter, great stuff as always. He's got a YouTube page, his podcast. Keep up the good work, my man.
Appreciate it, J-Mac. Good to see you.
All right.